Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I am your host, Samuel. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire country. And it doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing to diagnostic lab, you name it. You will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 5% performer within your role in sales, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. So today we have us a really interesting guest. I mean, he's lived one heck of a life. He's leading one heck of a life. And he is actually the CEO of a company called Habakkuk Orthopedic Distributorship out there in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. What's really fascinating about Clay Steeves and what he's doing is that he actually dropped out of college. So he dropped out of university and he found his way and still was able to create a distributorship, get to where he is today with his growing organization and do the great things he's doing out there in the world. And one thing you're going to find out when you listen to him is he is extremely centered and he's centered around his faith. Habakkuk, he was actually a prophet back in the Old Testament, and it means to embrace. And Clay, he talks about some of that in this interview, and he put this entire concept into the integrity of his organization. And again, it's taken him far, and he's still going places. His organization is growing, and it's a really interesting episode. So again, thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and I really hope you enjoy this interview.
Samuel, I am better than I deserve. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. So today we have with us Clay Steeves, CEO of Habakkuk. And, before I say any more, Steve, I'm going to let you go ahead and introduce yourself. So please tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Yeah, well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to share that. I am from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, right in the heartland of the country. I am first and foremost a son, a follower of Christ. So that's something that I'm passionate about, and will just kind of come out as I tell some of my story and even our organization. I am a husband for just now over 15 years, wow, which is a miracle. If you know me, that is a miracle. And my wife is full of grace and patience. I'm a father of 5 incredible kiddos, 4 biological and 1 adopted. So nice. That adoption realm is a big passion in my life. And then as well, man, I have the privilege of being the owner and CEO of Habakkuk, an orthopedic device distributorship based here in Oklahoma City for the last 7 years. We're a little bit over 7 years old as an organization. So that's a 50,000 foot of who I am.
Got it. So tell us a little bit more about Habakkuk. I mean, what's the orthopedics? I understand, but for those of our audience that might not know specifically what that means and what you're covering, why don't you just give us a little bit more insight on the company?
Yeah, so I've been in med device sales, so orthopedic device sales for 15 years to paint the full picture. Shoulders, knees, and hips was kind of the wheelhouse that I got into. Originally, my father is a retired orthopedic surgeon, so that's a bit of my story of how I kind of got into the realm and had the connections to. About 8 years in, I really grew a huge passion for not just the physical restoration, which is remarkable that we get to do every single day, right? Like a patient loses, whether it's playing with their grandkid, whether it's golfing with their buddies on the weekend, whether it's dancing with their spouse. Sometimes it's just getting out of the car. Like my own aunt has bilateral hips, and I can remember Christmas where she couldn't even get out of the car. Wow. And so it was us going to help her just get out. And now with hip replacements, she's dancing Zumba and she's teaching class and all this incredible stuff. But that's a physical restoration that, in my personal belief, it still will run out, right? Because we're still going to die. And so for me, as we wanted to found a company that had this physical restoration, but also an eternal restoration. And so that's where the name Habakkuk comes from. Habakkuk is actually an Old Testament prophet. He's a Hebrew minor prophet whose name means to embrace. And so when we founded this company, it's based on the concept of embracing healing because we wanted to help restore life here physically, and we wanted to go eternally as well. So that's what Habakkuk is. Again, a small distributorship that was founded 7 years ago. We're up to 17 employees now. So I guess I shouldn't say small when we started with 1 in a rent house that I had, and now we're up to 17, but it's still small by most definitions.
Nice. So you know what? That's That's fascinating. And you guys have so much depth to your company. I mean, even down to the name. I love that. Let's take it back, though. I want to understand how, where you started. And you already said it. Your dad was an orthopedic surgeon. So you kind of were brought into that. But I mean, take us back to college. What was going on in your mind? Your dad being an orthopedic surgeon. What was it that you wanted to do? And how did you move forward?
Oh, that's a story. So I attended Baylor University in Waco, Texas. So Sikkim, if anybody's listening in that realm, Sikkim Bears. But I was a history major. Okay. I was a history major, Samuel, and I love context. I love learning from the past. I love the stories, of great heroes and heroines and kind of learning from them. And so really that's what I was studying. I went on my journey, man, and I actually ended up dropping out of school. I had a lot of personal battles, and dropping out is probably even me being a little, I failed out of school. That's even a more authentic way to accurately say it. Okay. I left school. I battled addictions and substance abuse previously in my life. Sure. To the place where I dropped out with 8 hours left. And so I share that for if anybody out there who's either in that season themselves or has been in that and is kind of navigating. That's a real thing, but it's an overcomable thing. And so that's a part of my story. And when I left school, I have, and it was only through grace and it was a gift. And so I know not everybody has this, but because years before I had been in my dad's office flirting with the nurses probably, or, shaking hands or kissing babies or something. But my dad's rep was there and actually was basically said to my father back then, someday when he's finished with school, I'll give him a job. And so I was given an opportunity, kind of a lifeline, and basically tried to seize that moment. And so when I left school, I was given a chance to kind of step into the industry. I mean, entry level, grunt work, running sets, doing the dirty work late at night, back and forth between hospitals and cities and all over, kind of building a territory. But I was given a chance that way. So for me, I didn't study medicine. I wasn't on the, physiological side or PT or any of those aspects. I was a history guy, but it really was just an opportunity given that I'm very thankful for now, of course, but I just tried to seize back then. Amen to that. How old were you? I was 23. And so I was getting married. Yeah. I was getting married right out of school. And so I was 23 years old at that time. Yeah. So, I mean, what was that like? I mean, that's interesting, right? Because, a lot of people, they have an interest, they get into this industry, right? They have an interest already. Yep. And they're ready to embrace the science. They're ready to embrace the anatomy of the body. They're ready to get their hands dirty in that regard. You being a history major, I'm going to take it that you probably weren't into it, right? Nope, I was not into it. You're 100% correct. Yeah. But the principles for learning and understanding apply across all realms. And so I think if you can become a student of how to learn, right? And it doesn't matter what you studied before. Because I can remember laying in bed at night next to my wife studying like implant sizes for our reverse shoulder system that I used to sell, right? And because I was like, I know I need to not just memorize these, I need to do that first, but then I need to understand why between size 2 and 3 does it change 4 millimeters, and then 3 to 4 it changes 5 millimeters. Like I need to email the engineer. And so basically, if you know how to learn and study, and you begin to be passionate about the realm you're in whatever med device or pharma or whatever it is that you're in, you're going to find a way to learn that and understand it, and et cetera. Gotcha. So just because you haven't studied the medical side or the anatomy side or et cetera, just apply the same principles. And I think you'll be able to find a way to succeed there. I love that. So what drove your passion though? I mean, did you just get into it and say, you know what, I actually like this, or was there something else behind it? At the beginning, I will say, providing and just surviving. I mean, I if I really look back at myself then and was, looking in a mirror, very honest, it was providing for my family. I had failed previously, literally and, professionally at school. And so for me, it was an opportunity to say, I'm going to find a way to win. I want to provide for my wife. And then our first son, when my wife got pregnant, actually we were pregnant with twins. Okay. We lost one of the twins. And so that was a challenging season for us. And then our son was born at 33 weeks and went in the NICU. Wow. And I can remember, oh man, this story still gets me. I can remember to this day, Samuel. So he was in the NICU for 31 days, 30 days. He's healthy and thriving now, by the way. So I'll just add that caveat on there. But I can remember him coming home, and I can remember my wife was working at that time, and she's like, Clay, I'm not going back to work. She's like, I want to stay home. Like, this child needs that. And I'm like, I get it. And in the next month, I got the bill from the hospital, and I remember the total bill was over $250,000.
Wow.
And I got my commission check for $72.81. Wow. And I remember that moment being like, like, my wife's not going back to work. Yeah. I'm going to have to find a way. It didn't matter what I studied, what I learned. Like, life was real. And for the record, everybody who's listening, life's real, right? And that's my story and my unique aspects of it, but everybody's got that, right? And in the last year and a half, I mean, are you kidding me? We've all experienced this.
Especially in the last year.
That's what I'm saying. Like, things are out of our control, the stressors, the challenges, all these aspects. And so, like, we get to stop for a moment and kind of look in the mirror and go, okay, like, what am I going to do with this? Because I can't control the circumstances, but I can control how I respond to the circumstances. I can control what I do with it. And so for me, that was kind of one of those defining moments about in the journey, so to speak, in the journey.
Wow. That's you've experienced a lot really early. I mean, goodness. Amen to that. Yeah. So then, that brings my next question then, because I'm thinking, so you get into it, you have these life experiences, and now you're motivated. Now you're like, I'm going to go out there and make something happen.
You got it.
What was the situation that lets you know that, you know what, I'm doing this? I'm doing it. Like, this is happening. Like, oh my goodness. Wow. I'm living a completely different life. What happened there?
You know what's fascinating about it? I don't think there is a profound moment.
Okay.
I think that maybe that's the thing that I fell into a trap of, and I don't want anybody else to, is this concept of you're actually going to be doing the right work for a long time without seeing any results yet. Okay. It's fascinating. It's this concept of a lead lag metric, cause and effect, sowing and reaping, like all these kind of fundamental principles. You're going to be doing the right sales work, service work, focus work for quite a while before the fruit shows up. And so I think there's this element of you got to have the right people in your life who know wisdom, who maybe know a trusted sales process. And so you got to be able to have people who could speak on a trusted sales process into your life, or maybe even like a personal growth or development about who you are and the way that you can transform or elevate yourself, because a lot of that, you're not going to see the results. And so for me, I don't know that I had like an aha moment, like I'm making it. I do remember the first surgeon that I ever sold, like who said yes. Yeah. And I was such a bad salesman. Like, I just wanted it, by the way, but I was such a bad salesman. I probably still am. Like, if I'm going to hold a mirror up, but I was such a bad salesman. Okay. This doctor's rep wouldn't even show up to surgeries, and I still couldn't get his business. Like, his rep, and in our world, in the orthopedic device world, like, you cover every case. Right. His rep wouldn't show up to cases, and I still couldn't get his business until the day that he was in the surgery griping, and he was griping about his rep not being there. And his scrub tech, this is no joke, his scrub tech looks out the window of the OR and goes, well, do you see the guy standing in the hallway who's waiting to talk to you after this case? Wow. You should work with that guy then if you want him. And I was going to find a way, right? Yeah, like, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was going to keep showing up. Yep. And so what I'm saying is I've been doing that for months and months and months and months, and there's no result. Right. But then that moment kind of happens where other people take note. You treat people right. You do the right work. Like, you keep sowing where you need to sow. You trust a trusted process because you got wise people speaking into your life. Yeah. The results will come. And so, it's, okay. I love it.
Okay. So then, and this is with Future Tech, right? So you're
right. Yeah.
Yep. You're doing this. You're making things happen with Future Tech. I want to understand what happened that allowed you to say, you know what? I'm going to take these to a different level, and I'm going to get into my own distributorship.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Future Tech, and what again, I look back with such gratitude for the opportunity that I was given there. And that was a very small distributorship. Like, it was the distributor, me, and then like one office person. So it wasn't a business of scale. It wasn't kind of like one of these large distributorships you see covering big swaths of territory. But it was a wonderful place for me to be pruned and refined and grow and have great opportunity for those things. I probably got into two tension points personally. One was I've always felt a vision for leadership and kind of scale. And so for me, like I just desired to be either a part of, and even more so probably to lead something that began to scale and have a larger impact, not just the financial aspect. Because to be very frank, if you're listening to this and you're a rep and you want to go start a distributorship, you're going to take steps back for quite a while if you're going to do it like financially, like, which is why a lot of people don't, because it's going to cost you money. It's going to take investment, time. You're going to have to like totally reshift what your job is, all these aspects. And then the second part was, I was feeling a burden and a calling for a company that served a larger purpose than just the physical restoration. So that was, part of my journey in that spiritual restoration aspect when I talk about larger impact. So those two tension points probably led to the inflection of starting the distributorship, leaving Future Tech and being able to do that. And I speak, we sit now, like I said, our organization is 17 team members. We, expanded into multiple states. We were doing the thing we set out to do. When I look back at that point, if I could go talk to that young knucklehead kid 8 years ago who was going through that, man, I wish I would have done that whole process with more grace, with more honor and respect for the people who came before me, and so just to even kind of, I learned some really hard lessons about myself and those tensions of like, because it wasn't a beautiful transition. It wasn't, shaking hands and we're all on the same page. It was a pretty disruptive, challenging season. Can you be able to kind of start this new company? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you speak a little bit to, a little bit of insight on what that looked like?
Yeah. So, just between me and my old boss, like we began to kind of have negotiations of like, what would a buyout look like? What would kind of this transition look like? And we kept both changing terms kind of back and forth, and it was going to be this, and then it's going to be that. And being a small distributorship, one of the advantages you have is you always carry multiple lines, right? As opposed to if you go work for a large distributor or even direct for one of the big companies, the big orthopedic device companies, like you're going to sell that company and all of their products. That's it. When you're a small distributor like Habakkuk, et cetera, you have more flexibility and you can kind of, I would say, build your portfolio to, maybe pick just an upper extremity company to partner with, just a knee and hip company to partner with. And you can kind of maybe focus maybe more specifically or custom, more a la carte for your surgeons. Sure. Would be the aspect I would paint it as. And so, it was just our negotiation process to, I would say, take certain manufacturers and who was going to take what and how were we going to part ways. And to do that, and if I could go back, I would just do it with more honor. Okay. I would do it with more, maybe I'd be better at handling crucial conversations. Okay. I'd be more direct and straight up front as we are and try to strive to be now as an organization. Yeah. And so but that's a part of the process. And so to everybody, wherever you are, like, everyone's learning a lesson. Give yourself grace in that process, and yet hold yourself to high standards. And so continue to just grow and build your failure resume, but fail forward.
Right. No, I love it. I love it. What I love about you, Clay, is that you kind of touched everything. I mean, you got in a unique way when a lot of people doubt themselves, right? Especially if you didn't go to college, right? People would say, oh, I'm going to count myself out. There's no way I can ever do something like that. And then you experienced the hard life, right? You weren't working for a big company with a big base salary and all these benefits, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you really went in hard knocks, and then you grew yourself to where you are today. What would you say, top 3 things for a sales professional? And this is something good for people that want to get in to consider, and something good for people that are in to just keep in mind if they do want to take things to the next level. What are 3 big things that people got to be thinking about?
3 big things that people got to be thinking about. One, don't self-select before the process. So this would even be specifically for people who aren't in yet, or maybe people who are and are thinking about becoming a distributor or whatever. Don't pre-decide that you can't do it, because there are going to be opportunities, right? You're going to have to be aware. You're going to have to stay humble, keep doing the work and the grit. But, maybe there's somebody on the front end like me who doesn't have a college degree. Don't choose to not apply. Don't choose to get out there, because there are companies like Habakkuk that isn't a qualification. While some other people, and I completely understand why they have like certain degree attainments that you need to have. We don't have that because of my own story. And I'm like, man, I know there's a lot of great people who can be high performers, who can have a servant heart, who can function in a team and can be exceptional in the OR. And these are things we're passionate about here. And they don't have to have a degree to be able to do those things. Yeah. And maybe for yourself, if you've maybe failed trying to become a distributor before. Maybe you took a run at it and it didn't work. Like, don't self-select just because you failed before. There's a lot of lessons you could learn from that. Maybe there is a time for you to step up now to do that. So I would say don't self-select before.
Sure.
The second thing I would say, three things I always be thinking about. The second thing, it's always harder than it looks.
Hey, that's life. That is life.
I know, right? No,
and a little bit longer, and it's a little bit harder. Come on, you called it. You nailed it.
And I think the moment the moment you accept that premise, because I think we all pursue getting to where it's easy or comfortable or we arrive. But the truth of the matter is, you never arrive, right? Like it's a perpetual process. So you become a distributor, and guess what? Like, you're now again going to face new challenges that you had no idea were even a part of that. You're kind of like the dog that caught the car, and you're like, wait a minute, what do I do with that? And so I just think you've got to recognize it's a process. Like, it's a journey that you're never going to arrive on until we leave Earth. It's a journey you're never going to arrive on. And so there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be unforeseen circumstances. You're always going to have personnel challenges. You're always going to have clients who leave you. You're always going to have people who are unhappy. Like, okay, welcome to life. As you just said, welcome to the journey. So it's just always a little bit harder. You never arrive. And then the last one, and I'll couple it with that, it's always more rewarding. Like, if you're doing it for purpose, if you're doing it for something beyond just making money. And listen, I'm a capitalist. I'm all about making money because I think money, it is amoral. It is a resource we can use for good. It is something that can be leveraged to support families and people and change the world in great ways. But it can't be the end goal. It cannot be it, right? That cannot be the reason we do it. And so if you can do it for a larger purpose, it's always worth it. So the hard, the mess, the journey I described in number 2 that you got to know is always going to be there. Like, it's worth it if you're doing it with people you want to do it with. If you're doing it for a purpose that's higher than just your own, I got to make money to check the box. And so, yeah, that's what I'd say. Always be doing those 3 things.
I love it. Love it. Now, you run a company, you're CEO. I have to ask this question because it's so prevalent and everyone is experiencing it. How are you managing the progress of your company through these quarantine times with what's going on with COVID-19?
How are you managing the progress? Man, it might actually be in making sure we define that word really well. Okay. Like, what is progress and what is success for us as an organization? And so, yeah, man, I said we just celebrated our 7-year anniversary. The first 6 years we had 6 straight years of profitability and of overall growth. Okay. So 6 straight years of that did not happen in 2020, right? I mean, we were backwards. And at the same time, man, I will say our team grew physically. We doubled the number of employees we had. And I would say we grew in our maturation, in our understanding, in our systems, in our processes. I would say we grew up, so to speak, in that season. And so, man, I think the thing you have to do here specifically as a leader is make sure you're defining what success is. And again, I'm a capitalist. Like, 2021, we're going to go grow. Like, we're going to go find a way to grow and we're going to be profitable again. Like, trust me, like, we're going to go do it. All right. But at the same time, make sure you're defining what really success is. Like, getting our people healthy, helping our people thrive, and our people, because, man, life's hard right now. Life's always hard, but life is extremely hard. And we didn't lay anybody off. We didn't have to cut anybody back. And it's still really hard for everybody. And we know there's a lot of people around us. So how can we do that? And then the other, I think, is just to, as a leader, we've got to be centered. Like, we've got to be, I use that word, centered. We cannot be reactive in this season because it's just a hard time. It's volatile, it's uncertain, things are changing, and our people are looking to us to be composed and centered. And I'm not talking about faking it till you make it, because that's nonsense in my opinion. I think we should hold up our arms and let people see our pit stains. Sure. Like, let them, that's a Pat Lencioni thing, man. Like, just let them, because you're human and everybody knows you're human and everybody knows you're struggling with it. Be authentic with them, but at the same time, be centered, be grounded in, this is hard, but we're going to make it through it. Like, have a confidence to go with that. So that's what for me, that's what I've been trying to do. You'd have to ask my team members if I've done it very well or not. That would be their referendum. But for me, man, that's what I've been really trying to do in this season. It's just, hey guys, everything's loud. Everything's chaotic all over the place. And it's so much is out of our control. Like, let's control the things we can. Let's control our responses. Let's stay grounded. Let's keep our eyes on the purpose of what we're trying to do as an organization. And every company's got a purpose. So just keep your eyes on that and keep working towards that and do what you can in the season. Yeah.
I love it. So you have 5 children.
Yes,
You
sir.
run an organization that's growing rapidly, and you are in the middle of a pandemic. And now we're talking about what centers you. What centers you? What do you rely on that allows you to say, you know what? Whatever happened today happened, and I'm going to go out there tomorrow, and I'm going to go even bigger, harder, and better. What is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, and I say this humbly, but very, very clearly and boldly, and even in a hard time to say it, maybe in America with a lot of the tensions going on. But man, I'm a follower of Christ. Faith is a big deal to me, and so I'm trying to lead myself and my family, my spouse, my kiddos, our organization, the community, anybody that'll lead me to just, if we have the context that there's a larger story we're a part of, the chaos we're in here right now is a lot smaller in the context of that larger aspect, right? And so for me, that larger purpose, trying to keep that eternal perspective, that long-term perspective is the thing that keeps me centered. Because I know when I was trying to do it on my own, I was pretty much a train wreck. And so when I did it on my own power, that was where I ended up in a lot of not knowing who I was, hurting a lot of people, hurting myself. And that brokenness is still there, but by my perspective, it has been redeemed. And so trying to do it since I've been given life again, I'm trying to live that life and be able to pass it to others.
That's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So as a leader, I know that you're probably taking in knowledge consistently. I'm going to guess that you're a reader. Am I right?
Yes, sir. I am a reader. Yep.
Give us your, you can give us the top 3 or you can give us your top 1, but we'd love to know what you're reading now, what you're learning from now, and what you might even suggest for the audience.
I don't know that I can do top 1 just because of the fact that
It's a tough question. Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Right? And he's like, "What's your favorite movie?" I'm like, "I don't know." I'm an ENFP. I love everything. I don't know. Give me like 8 things. I am currently reading, like on my nightstand, is Good to Great. I'm rereading Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Okay.
That trying to study previous organizations that were able to go from good to great, sustain that greatness, and the leadership that it takes and the principles to do it. So I'm rereading Good to Great. I pushed pause on it for a little bit. I actually just read one called Numb, which is about finding healing and feeling, which is written by a counselor here in Oklahoma City that I admire, and she's written that. So I was reading that piece. Probably I don't know if I'm going to call it my favorite. One of the most impactful books I read was Bonhoeffer. By Eric Metaxas.
I've never heard of that.
Which was about Dietrich Bonhoeffer.
Okay.
Oh, come on now. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a priest and a leader and a teacher and an academic in Germany when the Nazis came to power. Yeah. And it is his story, which is remarkable. So there, put that one on your list, man. Put that one on your list. It's a long read. You're gonna have to stay with it. It's a long read, but I promise his courage and his faith and it's a remarkable story. So that probably would go up there for me as one that was very impactful. If you're starting a business, and because culture is a huge deal to me, if you're a leader, Pat Lencioni, anything he's got, he really, if we have a successful culture, if we have a healthy organization, if we have clear priorities and behaviors and mission and how we're going to succeed and what's the most important thing in our company right now, all those things, it's because of learning from Pat and learning about his model, from the advantage, the 5 dysfunctions of a team, ideal team player, whatever you want. His content is exceptional.
And I've read all of those, and those are all great books. I read a lot of Pat.
Yeah.
He's good.
Yeah, he's great.
So when you're growing your team, as you're continuing to grow, what would you say is one of the most important qualities you look for in an individual you're considering?
Humility.
Humility
and awareness. Those are the 2 things I look for.
Okay.
Humility being the most important, because we're about we, not me. We're about the eco, not the ego. Like take your pick of how you want to say the phrase. But I want people who are confident. I want people who believe in themselves. I want people who will come to, we're in a business, like we're capitalists. Like let's go compete. Let's find a way to win. But to do it not for their own glory, not for their own purpose, but to do it for something larger than themselves. That might even just be the teammate next to them. It might be contributing to a nonprofit, their church, whatever it is they're passionate about. Maybe it's providing for their kids and then their kids' legacy, doing legacy building, et cetera. But man, to have true humility, that's the number one thing that we try to look for in people. Because I think it's probably the most important thing, just long-term, towards building a healthy team and healthy people. The other with awareness, I want people who know who they are. And that's our depth and our understanding of who we are is evolving. It's a transformation. And so with awareness, I think that's the development for all, it's the platform for all growth. And so here we have a development culture. We expect our people to be getting better every single year, every single day. And that's it. Sometimes that's one step back, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, whatever it is. But our goal is, we want to be growing, and awareness is the key to that. So when someone comes to the team, how self-aware are you? Are you bringing me a resume that's just like a highlight reel? Because guess what? Nobody's just a highlight reel. Nobody has ever existed as just a highlight reel. Don't come tell me you are. I don't want to know your best stuff. I want to know, are you aware of your weaknesses and your strengths? And I want to know, how do you deal with your weaknesses? Do you build systems around them? Do you staff differently? Like these elements, while telling me your strengths as well. Like I want to know, are you fully aware? And so for me, those are probably the 2 things that we look for the most in team members. Not even like their training, even some of their background. The greatest predictor of future success is past success. Like all these things are true, and you want to know these things. But for me, humility and awareness, those are the 2 things we look for.
Got it.
Yeah, man.
Wow, Clay, we can talk all day because I can.
Come on now, let's go. Let's keep going. I haven't even got to ask you a question yet. I want to start learning. Come on.
Okay. All right. So a couple things I want to understand. So what? I know that people, a lot of my audience knows what a distributorship is, right? They know what a distributorship is, but there are some that don't. And they're listening and they're like, I still don't understand the difference. Can you go ahead and explain what a distributorship is and how it plays into the market with larger companies like the Medtronics and the Strykers of the world?
Yeah. And this will be my perspective and the understanding on it, right? So there's so you just talked about Medtronic, Stryker, like, you got a large organization that's got the resources and almost the network to be able to create a direct sales force that's across a large geographic area, right? The whole US, the world, whatever it is, even just a region, like that takes a large financial capital investment to get those people and to be able to have them full-time and benefits, et cetera. Right. My perspective is there's a lot of startup companies, innovative companies, medium to smaller size, what I'll call manufacturers or vendors that they don't, especially in the startup phase, have the resources, the network, the local expertise to be able to scale like that and to have those people. And so often what they'll do is, instead of having a direct sales force, they will partner with local distributors throughout the country that have an expertise and relationships and a team in a small geographic area. So for Habakkuk, we're based in Oklahoma City. We've got a central Oklahoma, North Texas expertise. And so we've got 7 or 8 manufacturers that do not have their own sales force that'll basically say, okay, Habakkuk, we'll negotiate together. We'll talk about terms, et cetera, but we want you to represent us in this one geographic confined area. Yeah. And we're like, cool, we'll just sell your stuff here. And so right next door in a different state, they've got a different partner. And so they basically build their network by building partnerships instead of direct team members underneath them. And so for us, we didn't have aspiration early on to be all over the world, and we couldn't scale that way. So it's like, well, we have expertise here in Oklahoma City. Let's look for manufacturers that would want to sell here, thrive here, grow here, that we aligned with, and then build that type of a partnership.
Gotcha. So you guys spend a lot of time in ASCs then?
We're starting to. So most of our procedures, I'd say greater than 90% are inpatient procedures for us as an organization. Okay. And Oklahoma is unique in the sense that we're kind of the wild, wild west on some fronts. We have more physician-owned hospitals per capita than anywhere in the country, which is like a remarkable statistic. We never had a certificate of need before the moratorium. And so you can't throw a rock and not hit a physician-owned hospital here. But that maybe that it's actually contributing to it. Oh, that's an interesting thought that I hadn't even taken that. But our total joints haven't migrated to the ASC setting like we see in some parts of the country. Because, we hear about it at AAHKS, American Academy of Hip and Knee Surgeons, or at the large academy meeting, or all these other places. We're like, yeah, we hear this. It's a buzz term. People are doing it, but we don't see it like in mass numbers to where we're shifting to the ASC. But some of our smaller stuff, smaller meaning joint, distal radiuses, some of our fracture work, elbow work will be done in an ASC. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And how large is your sales team right now?
how large is our sales team? So the way we've structured it, we've kind of built a team that has, well, let me go back to the unique strengths thing when we're talking about, I believe in building a body. I believe the body was uniquely made. I mean, let's even talk about orthopedics. Let's talk about medical, all this stuff that, every part of the body plays a different role. Like the hand has a specific role, the ear has a specific role, the knee has a specific role, and it can't do the other person's job. And it was specifically and uniquely created to do its specific role. I think people are the same way. And also I would just plug here, I think that's a biblical principle. So also, I just think everyone has unique gifts, right? You have yours and you're leveraging it right now through doing this podcast. Like you have a gift of speaking, of drawing out your guests, of communicating. That's not everybody's gifts. You and I both know there's introverts that don't communicate well, but maybe they're more analytical than us, or maybe they can think strategically better than we can, or maybe they're in the numbers. And so we use a lot of tools, Myers-Briggs, StrengthsFinder, Enneagram. Like we try to use these to understand these people who are coming to us, and then we build our team around that, because I want all facets of the body to be able to build a holistic, healthy team to be able to win as a whole, right? So on our sales side, we have sales reps, and their job, they're kind of the gift of gab, that high energy, walk in the door, let's go sell, right? Shake hands, kiss babies, that whole thing. But sometimes that gifting doesn't complement towards being process driven or even being exceptional in surgery. And so there's an element of, because I got some team members that just do service. So that's what we call kind of our operating room people who cover surgeries. Like a clinical specialist type. Clinical specialist. That's exactly right. That would be another term for it. We just use the term service consultant is the term we use. And those people are not made for sales. Like we don't need to be sending them cold calling and developing a territory, but they have a great place in our organization, because serving that surgeon while they serve that patient is a part of our mission and who we are. And doing that at an exceptionally high level and managing sets and inventory and being able to really add nuances like, hey, sir, I've seen this or that at this opportunity in the surgery. And so what we've tried to do is kind of build a team that does that. So we've got 7 people. I'll answer your question. We have 7 people in the field, some doing service representative or service consultant positions, some in sales. And then we actually just started a new one, which is new for us, but not new for other organizations, which is kind of a technician role, where they're not in surgery, they're not in sales, but what they're doing is they're setting up and cleaning up our sets and our implants, our instrument sets and our implants the day before and the day after surgery. So it's kind of I'm going to say a third part of that body who manages our sets. Cause a lot of our surgeries got 15, 20 pans. You can have hundreds of implants, lots of tubs. And so it takes a large logistical effort to ensure that we have everything we need. Yeah.
So all of your accounts, your customers, they're familiar with 3 touch points from your company per account.
Yes. Yeah. And for us, we've been, and again, teamwork is a core value here. We believe in the exponential power of a unified team. And so while we do have account managers and there's a point person, we're very adamant that we don't build silos over clients. Gotcha. We don't, that was the world I came from previously, where you kind of had, I would use the term mercenaries, where you just kind of get this one relationship, you build your silo line and protect it. And that is a business model. You can do it. And a lot of people, it is. And they're very financially successful, and that's great. But for me, I want to build, again, exponential power. We want scale. We want more impact. And so for us, we raise the standard. This is how we're going to perform in the OR. This is the servant heart we're going to have. We're going to be exceptional in our team. And that doesn't matter if it's team member A, B, C, or D, so that you can be confident, doctor, that when we show up, you're going to get the same level of performance, the same level of expertise, and we're going to hold ourselves to it. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
So they get multiple touch points. You're exactly right. Because I think that creates the scale. That creates the opportunity to do more impact across a larger area. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to ask you it can be a pretty general question, but I want you to do your best.
All right.
So for the future, I'm talking 5-10 years out.
Yep.
What's the goal, if you can share? What are you trying to achieve outside of just making, as much as you can and serving as many people as you can?
Sure.
What are you trying to achieve?
My heart is to be a part of making the medical device delivery, right? Because I think what we do matters. And I think even the movement previously to try to go repless, like in the ortho world, which by the way failed. And I got some great stories in there too. But I think the heart behind that was there's gross inefficiencies in the way medical devices are distributed and serviced.
Okay. So hold on. Okay. Give us some insight into that, because there are listeners that don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. So even in the model of everything I just described, one of the things that's happened probably in the last decade, if I'm would be my context, the last decade.
Okay.
There have been organizations that went repless. In other words, they tried to eliminate what we do for a living on the ground in the OR from the whole process. Most of this was cost driven, right? Because this is the challenge. Things cost a lot of money. We all understand that. The system, we can't just keep spending at the level we are. And so to cut costs, what they've done is said, well, let's just cut out the middleman. Let's cut out the distributor or the middle rep, and we'll go repless. And the hospital will just buy direct from the manufacturer. We'll take the instruments and the implants ourselves, and then we'll just provide it to our surgeons. And that way we cut the middle person out, and whatever portion they were taking from the equation, then that portion is now freed up for savings or cost or whatever. We can all share it together.
Right.
So I'll tell a story. Can I tell a story in that? Is
please,
that cool?
please.
All right. So there was a surgeon here in town who did that. He went repless. And through a mutual connection, I was honored to be able to connect with him, sit down with him after clinic one day at his office. I got an appointment and I show up, and it had been going for a while that had been repless, and it was buzz all over the town. Because when these things happen, you know how it is. A rep changes jobs, or somebody changes practices. Like it's buzz. It's the rumor mill
starts.
That's right. So everybody knew about it.
Yeah.
And so I show up, and everybody had been talking about it. So I show up and I get this appointment, and we sit down together, and I thank him or whatever. And I just look at him. I was like, hey, doctor, I just want to tell you, thank you. I think it is so awesome that you went repless. And he was just like, what? Like, everybody else is like pissed at me right now. Why would a rep show up in my office and say that this is awesome? And I was like, well, I think it's awesome for two reasons. Number one, I love disruptive thinking that is about efficiency and saving money, and yet still providing quality care for patients. Because that's what we have to do at the end of the day. We cannot drop the quality of care that we provide for patients, because that could be my mom, that could be your mom, that could be, my spouse. Like, that matters. We have to provide quality care. But I love when people are trying to find efficiencies to deliver that same level of care in a more productive, more cost-effective way. I was like, so I love it. I was like, great job. I was like, and two, you're going to prove the reason for our job. Like, this isn't going to work, and your mere experiment is going to prove why we had value to the system. And he just was staring at me. It was great. And I was, and so then he just kind of sits there. And here's a great lesson in the sales process, right? There was the pregnant pause. Like, there was the pause. And he just kind of sat there and looked at me. And by the way, now this is a friend of mine. I've gotten to know this surgeon very, very well. Incredible man. And he's a huge introvert. I now know this because he's now done the Myers-Briggs stuff with us. And so I got to know his. And so I'll know he's also just an introvert. But like at this time, I was like, this tension is building. This is nerve-wracking. And he just sat there and he goes, that's interesting. We're having conversations about hiring more personnel internally as a hospital to manage all the inventory because it's such a train wreck right now.
Wow.
And I was like, don't do that. I was like, don't do that. I was like, just tell that manufacturer to connect with me. I was like, and we'll take care of you. I was like, just watch. I was like, give me an opportunity. You connect me with them. I was like, I'll ensure your price point doesn't change. Your costs won't change. And I was like, and we'll fix your operational issues. Nice. And man, that was years ago, and we still work with that surgeon to this day. Nice. I can tell you that. So what I would say is this. I hope the industry moves this way, and my desire is for our organization, and then we're now have started a sister organization with Habakkuk called Teleortho, which is kind of the next iteration to work together to be a part of, I want to say, revolutionizing the way orthopedic devices are serviced and distributed throughout the country. Because for anybody who's sitting around waiting on the old days, and this can be a principle in life, for 2019 to come back, 2019 in that world is never coming back. We're going into a new future. And so how do we leverage technology? How do we leverage telemedicine? How do we leverage efficiencies and operate? I mean, think about it, man. You could get on your phone right now while we're sitting here, and you could order something on Amazon. It'll be delivered later today. You're going to get a text picture from the delivery person that's going to show up in your inbox 30 seconds later. That's going to be a picture of it on your front desk. And it's going to ask you for a feedback loop of, did you like our experience? You know what I'm saying? Like, the operational efficiencies are here. What we have to do is we have to be willing to go and have the courage to go against the status quo. And we have to coalesce these elements together to create the same standard of care for our patients, the same standard of service for our surgeons, but we have to fix the process up until that point. Okay. And so that's my dream for the next 5 years. You got me going. You found my button. That's what I love. That's what I'm passionate about. And so for us, and I'll even weave it for me personally, just so you know. Please. I said the new entity of what we're partnering with Habakkuk is called Ortho, right? And these are sister companies that go together. Ortho plays obviously on the telemedicine aspect of what we do using video, but even more so, it's rooted in the word telos, which is the Greek word that is also from the Bible in the New Testament. It was the word that Jesus used on the cross when he said it's finished. And so what it means is it's the completion point of so much more before it. And so for us as an organization, Habakkuk and Ortho, because you're never going to fully eliminate the old way, right? Like, and so again, I'm getting preachy here because I'm passionate about this. But like, if you look at the Old Testament, the New Testament, they go together perfectly in tension. You can't have one without the other. You can't have what Jesus did without everything that built up to it. And so for us, Habakkuk and then Ortho will come together, and it will be the completion or the new version of the old into the new, as we then move into the future of device distribution. And so like there is a better way. There is a way we can maintain the same level of care, because what we do matters. Just like in that story to that doctor, just like for my aunt who's now dancing, Zumba, and we're talking to, she's not doing Zumba during the COVID quarantine, but you know what I mean? She was able to do before, et cetera.
Right.
But like giving people their life back, having it restored matters. And so how do we find a way to make that sustainable? How do we find a way to make that scalable into the new future? Because like we said, the old isn't coming back.
Got it.
Yeah.
Man, that was wonderful. Clay, this was great. You gave us so much insight, and thank you for tying it to so much meaning. I mean, you guys, you clearly think it through down to the detail on why you're doing everything you do. And from what I've seen, that's what helps smaller companies become giant companies. And that's what helps everyone really move forward rapidly when they're operating with meaning every step of the way. And that's clearly what you guys are doing. Is there a resounding message you want to leave with our audience? And remember, we have people that want to get into the industry, people that are in, and people that are leading it. What would you like to share with them?
When you know who you are, you'll know what to do.
Ooh.
That's what I would say. And so just, there's probably, if there's people who are wanting to get in, it's a lot of economic uncertainty around us. We've had the privilege of, from where I'm from, oil and gas is a large industry, and it's really struggling right now. So there's a lot of great people who have been without work for a long time. Yeah. And you get kind of stuck in this liminal space. You get stuck in these waiting seasons, use that as an opportunity to just take a deep breath and maybe just spend some time with yourself. Like when you know who you are, you'll know what to do. And so pursue those opportunities that you feel, maybe that tug or that conviction, or like, man, this doesn't make sense, or it's not the right number, or, I was making this before and I really want to make that, like maybe, or pursue the purpose that you're feeling called to. Pursue that purpose thing, whatever that is, because everybody's is going to be different, right? Yep. Yours is different than mine. Mine's different than the next, but everybody has one. Everybody was made for that. So pursue who you are, because when you know who you are, you'll know what to do.
I love it. Couldn't be said better. Clay, this was awesome. We are definitely going to follow up with you because we can't wait to see all the things your company does in the future. And thank you for spending time with us.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity to connect and share. And I love what you're doing. And so it was just an honor to be able to spend some time with you today.
Definitely. Talk to you soon, Clay. And that was Clay Steeves. After talking to so many people, just in life, I'm not even talking about the podcast. I'm talking about in life in general, talking with so many people. What I've noticed is when most people that center themselves deeply into something, whether it's their faith, whether it's a philosophy, whether it's the deep belief in what they're doing, they're able to just get through all sorts of things and get themselves to a completely new space in light of all the biggest obstacles. That's one reason why I knew Clay. I really wanted his story to be heard, because who would have thought that you can drop out of college and take yourself to a level that he's taken his self to, in light of having a family of 5. That's a lot. And when you hear about that, you think, wow, how in the world did somebody do that? But when you talk to him, you quickly see that when you're really centered and you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you have something that motivates you to go after it consistently every single day, there really is nothing you can't do. And that's what I loved about this episode. That's what I loved about this interview. And I think it's something for all of us to remind ourselves of and take a note of. We're all going through something, or we're going to go through something at some point. And sometimes it's going to be so difficult that we're going to be looking around wondering, how am I going to get through this? What am I going to do to get to the other side of this? And it can be in our profession. It can be in our personal life. It can be with something we've taken on. And I sincerely believe that if we're centered and we have something that we're deeply centered in, then that's going to sustain us, and that's going to get us through. So as always, thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast. If you're someone out there that wants to work for a company like Clay's, or you're looking to get into medical device sales or pharmaceutical sales or molecular sales or genetic sales or biotech sales, and you're coming from any industry, whether you're a nurse or a B2B sales rep, someone in customer service, a teacher, if you're someone that wants to get into this space, then you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com or find me on LinkedIn under Samuel Gbadebo. Send a message or visit evolveyoursuccess.com, select Attain Medical Sales Role, and just follow the prompts. And get in contact with us and let us help you get to where you're trying to go. And if you're someone out there that's really trying to break through, you want 2021 to be your year, and you're thinking about maybe getting into a different position, or you're thinking about really hitting top tier performance in your territory, then again, find us, evolveyoursuccess.com, select Improve Sales Performance, or find me, Samuel Gbadebo, on LinkedIn, and just send a message. And one of my people will contact you, and we'll get you in conversations with us, and we'll get you on the right track. We have a great sales training program that's great for teams, and it's great for individual professionals. So again, it's such an honor to have these guests on this show and really get into their lives and share what's really going on behind those closed doors, so that anyone listening can get some insight and make better decisions in the life they're trying to lead. So again, I'm going to say it one more time. Thank you for listening to the Medical Sales Podcast, and make sure you tune in next week. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a couple programs that show you exactly how to break into the medical sales industry, become a top performing medical sales professional, and also how to masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolveyoursuccess.com. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews.